Welcome to News with a View, hosted by me, John A. Costa, an expert on nothing, which qualifies me to give you an opinion of what's going on in the news. This is a conservative-leaning podcast, but I do take in the facts, and I do take in whether it's constitutionally allowed, according to me, what's written in the good book, and what really makes common sense. And let me just say this, I'll preference this by saying that if the Democrats come up with a good idea, I'm all for it. Because a good idea is still a good idea no matter where it comes from. Unfortunately, we have not seen that lately. Not saying all Democrats, I'm just saying the majority. So, with that, I try to be as unbiased and non-biased, but I can't help it. I am a conservative. I am a Republican, not MAGA. Excuse me, Federalist. This will be episode, I think it's 66. I'll have to look it up. Today is Sunday, May 3rd, 2026. I usually do not do a weekend show, but this week I did because I was kind of slacking the last couple of weeks. I've had a lot of things to do and a lot of things that I needed to get done on a personal nature, and just couldn't really do the show as much as I would like to do the show. Today, I'm just going to go over some of the craziness of the Democrats and some of the things that they've come out and said that is absolutely mind-boggling. I don't get it. I don't understand what the Democrats are trying to do. Doesn't make sense. They're chasing their tail. And they're just making crazy comments. I'll talk about Jeffries out of his freaking mind. Of course, after the shooting that took place at the White House Corresponding Dinner, and the Democrats were all saying it was staged and everything, and he gets up and says, "I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn what they say. I don't care." I mean, this is. We know he doesn't care. And but the Democrats want to, we're the nice people, we're the purveyor of good thoughts, we're the purveyors of hopes and dreams. And he turns around and says, "Well, I don't care." All right, Then he used in his thing that because of the so-called gutting of the Voting Protection Act. It wasn't a gutting. It just said you can't give groups special districts just because they're black, just because they're Hispanic, or just because they're white. You can't do that. Or you go, well, you're white and you can't have a special district because we're going to give it to them. No, that's the House of Representatives. You want to load it up. And listen, that was 1964 Voters' Right Act. We kind of get it. But there's that was bad law then. It was always bad law. And now you have the Supreme Court saying, yeah, no, you can't do that. So Jeffries turns around and he goes, "We're going to take maximum warfare." After he said days before the shooting that he needed foot soldiers to go out and defend and recapture democracy. Where was democracy? He was allowed to say that in a speech. Where is democracy anywhere at risk? It was never at risk. It's just more of the liberal lies. And you could say, hey, we don't believe in, you know, Trump's actions as the president. We you know, that's fine. But you don't call out foot soldiers to go out there and, you know, act like a soldier would. And you'll have the left scream, well, what about January 6th? That was a legitimate protest. That did get out of hand. But never did the president say, hey, you know, storm the Capitol building. Become soldiers for me. You know, so don't lie. Don't lie. You can have your differences, Democrats. Just don't lie. America, you woke up the voters, Democrats. And they said, we've had enough of these shenanigans and nonsense and stuff, and voted you guys out. And what do you think is going to change in 2026? You were taken out because you instead of going a little bit more right, you were leaning left. So what do you do now? Now you go full rudder left. We're in boating tour. I'm going that hard to port. It just doesn't make sense. Jeffries also attacked the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, and called her a stone-faced, a stone-cold liar. All right. You're in politics, you know, but he went on to say the corrupt MAGA majority. What? What corruption? Like what's going on in California or Minnesota? That type of corruption? Is that what you're talking about? Jeffries is out of his mind. And then to say, well, Carolyn Leavitt was because he got mad that she got up and said the shooting is part of the problem of Democratic hate rhetoric. And he goes, I deny that. You know, and it's like he gets getting up there, he goes, we're the most peaceful people ever. And if anyone says we're not, we're going to kill them. I mean, you don't think America is seeing that? All of a sudden, the double standard? You don't think that America's not sitting back going, yeah, hold it. Yeah, you are guys saying a lot of things that you shouldn't be saying. And I agree with you when you say there's some things the president shouldn't say. I'm right there with you. I wouldn't say some of those things. I might think them, but I'm not going to say them. No filter. So when he says it, I go, okay, kind of have to agree with you, but I wouldn't have said that. Or if I would have said it, I would have used a lot more big words. But that's what makes Trump Trump. And he won. I mean, he said some stuff that I thought, all right, you know, that's it. You know, John McCain. America doesn't like losers who get captured. Guy was a decorated war hero. Served his country and some. He might have been a rhino. And all right, you know. But call him a loser? I don't know. I wouldn't have used, you know, I could shoot someone on Fifth Avenue or whatever and get elected. Yeah, probably, and he did. But I wouldn't say that. That's not something I would have gone out on a limb and said. So He says some things, but to say the Supreme Court, the majority, is a corrupt entity. Yeah, I think Jeffries they're in panic mode. This is the stuff that crazy people start to say. And since he is the minority speaker, and when I say minority, not because he's black, but they don't hold the majority in the House of Representatives, so he's he's the minority speaker. Johnson is, of course, the majority speaker. He's just way, way out of his league. Way out of his league. And he says things that people will circle back and go, hold it, but didn't you say over here this, and now you're saying it's the same thing. It's the Harris. Whoever wants to hear what they want to hear, that's what I'm going to say over here. And then when I go over there, I'll say whatever, the contrary. America's listening, and America's watching. And I'll tell you, Democrats, even AOC says you're way off base. Fetterman, who's a moderate, I wouldn't say that he's a Republican or anything, but he's a moderate. But he doesn't speak for the DNC. So, but this is the craziness, the crazy talk coming out of Washington, and people are seeing it, and people are hearing it. During the week, they had Zeldin in front of the House Appropriation Committee, talking about the EPA, of course, and the ranking member, Representative Rosa DeLauro, Democrat from Connecticut. Now, Connecticut has Senator Murphy, piece of crap, and she's one of the reps. 80 years old, blue hair. You look at her, and if you were on a bus with her, you wouldn't make eye contact, and you probably wouldn't let your child sit next to her. And yes, I'm going to judge a book by its cover. And to hear her speak, it was, how could they let this crazy person try to debate Zeldin? I don't get it. I'm looking at it and I'm saying, look, Lee Zeldin is a smart guy. And, she starts going at him because he said, hey, it's a climate issue is, we can't, we can deny it, we can't deny it, we can't say anything about it, but he said that there's no proof to it. There's scientific speculation, but there's absolutely no proof that would, point one way or the other. Is it happening in nature? Is it happening because of man? Now, I'll agree there's some things that, are garbage floating in the ocean, and plastics and things, and of course, our water supply, we gotta have clean water. So those are all things that, need to be discussed. But, Zeldin said to the representative from Connecticut that we can't take that in the Supreme Court in a case that Loper Bright, what Loper Bright is. And that was a case in front of the Supreme Court. And they said, we can't take that stuff into consideration. And she went on and on. And Zeldin just tore her to pieces. Made her look like the idiot she is. She's a ranking member on the Appropriation Committee for the EPA funding. And she had no idea what the EPA is allowed and not allowed to use as a reference point. Now, the EPA does take things into account, and you can make it, each administration tweaks it to what they want. And we know that. We're all big boys and girls here. And we know that Trump is saying some of these EPA regulations, if you're a farmer and you put a mound in your field, you have to treat that as if it's a mountain. And you have to, do certain things. Now, that's soil preservation. We saw what happens when soil preservation is not performed. You had the Dust Bowl. And I can understand some of the reasoning of, the EPA's and the decision on land management and farm management. I get it. There's science behind it. But this woman had no idea. And she gave Zeldin an opening. And he just pushed and pushed and pushed. So Zeldin cut in and said, Rosa DeLauro said that she was upset, and he cut in and he said, you know what the major policy doctrine is? You're a member of Congress, you should. And he really schooled her. And she turned around and she said, hey, listen, pal, you have to come to us for money. So, you better be a good boy. And he just tore into her. And he humiliated her, as he should. You ever see Senator John Kennedy go after someone? It is frightening. It's amazing to watch. If you haven't watched Senator John Kennedy from Louisiana, you should. Because that is someone who, he's smart. But what makes him so smart to me is that he has very smart people surrounding him in his staff. And he'll look at something and go, this is the information I need you to find. Just dig it out and give it to me, and I'll absorb it. And you can have a smart person, but if they don't surround themselves with smart people, it's easy to get caught. Maybe once or twice did I see Senator Kennedy get zinged. But we knew Zeldin, was a lightning rod for the EPA people in the House of Representatives. Trump, he wants to clean up oil spills with baby ducks, rub them in there and squeeze them, and this is what we hear from, Trump doesn't care and stuff, Because they don't have anything. The Democrats have nothing. Nothing. They're bringing nothing to the table. In 2026, nothing to the table. And we're going to win. Oh, the polls are showing. Yeah. Yeah. You know what polls I use? I go to local bars and I hear people talking. And those are the people that vote. And I'm sure there are some people in there that don't want. I'm not going to say nothing because I can only get a boot in my butt, either from some guy on the left or some guy on the right. All I know is I don't want a boot in my butt, and I get that. But you have some people that will intelligently go after things, and you have other people. I just hate Trump. I hate what? Why? Because. But no, why? Because he's a bad person. Oh, tell me why he's bad. And then you hear things, Trump was a rapist. Really? Because he's never been charged with that. I've never seen him. Well, he's a convicted felon. Yeah. And those charges are being slowly, reversed because he did not get a fair trial, folks. And yes, you and I, we'd be in jail. I get that. I understand where a lot of these people say about Trump. But you know what he used? He had the money to have people fight his constitutional rights. And when I hear people go, oh, democracy's at risk. Oh, no. He proved democracy. And we don't have democracy, folks. I keep saying that. He showed that the Constitution prevails. Now, you better have pockets and room full of money, but it prevailed. So Zeldin just humiliated this representative. Blue-haired, glass. I mean, she looked scared. Like I said, if I was on a bus with her, no eye contact, no nothing, and yeah, I will judge the book by the cover, and then, I'll read the book, and then I might change my mind. But here, this was one of these audible books. You hear her talking, and you go, oh, this woman's an idiot. This woman is used to people telling her how great she is, how wonderful she is, and never questions, all right. How great grandma is. Just say yes. And I don't know what her district is. I've seen her before, and I knew who she was. But I didn't know she had blue hair. Because honestly, I only look at what they say. And that's how I make my judgment on people. Not how they look. But her, and there are people that you look at and you go, yikes, yikes. Stay away from that one. And there have been people that I've said that about and been pleasantly delighted when they speak, and you go, well, that's a smart person. Hey, now I can overlook all that because I've gone deeper. I heard her talk. I've seen her stuff before. Yeah. Yeah. She's not a bright person. You have Hochul, Governor Hochul, out of New York, my alma mater state. Got out of there as soon as I could, folks. 30 some odd years in New York City working. I couldn't get out of there quick enough. And those were years ago when it was still, fairly decent. And she is trying to get businesses to come back to New York. We're streamlining, we're digitizing, we're doing this. We're going to make it easy for you to do business in New York. But we're going to tax you. Right? What is where are you going to open that business up? Upstate New York? No, you're opening a business downstate New York. New York City. Because that's where you can get the most amount of the workforce pool. I can get from Connecticut. I could even get from Pennsylvania. I could get from, of course, New Jersey and Long Island. And I have top-notch people there. So I want to open a business in Manhattan. Well, guess what? I got Mandani there going, oh, you have to give everything away. Oh, we're going to tax you. How much? Tax. And people turn around, they go, you know what? I can find people in Texas. The right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. But they really do. They're liars. Liars. You had AOC kill a deal that Cuomo went nuts. Billions of dollars could have gone into the Long Island City area and rejuvenated that area. Amazon wanted to build a fulfillment center there, and they had rails there, they had infrastructure, they had all there. And they would have revitalized that area. And she fought until Amazon goes, listen, we don't want to go where we're not wanted. And they decided to go somewhere else. And you go into AOC's area. Go down Roosevelt Avenue. Roosevelt Avenue. And you tell me, you'd open up a store there? I think not. I think not. And this is the Democrats' thinking. Well, if I bring businesses in there and people start making money and then they start owning homes and they start wanting to protect their money, they're not going to be Democrats for long. Because Democrats wants to take that money from those people and give it to, their wards. They wanted to give it to their people who are not working, who won't work. And we can't have that now, can we? So Hochul is trying, making all these promises. Come back to New York. And guess what? She's not going to get anyone coming back to New York. Because no one wants to do it. No one wants to do it. And it's sad. It really is. The Democrats have ruined everything they put their hands on. And then you have Harris going out there and going, I'm going to run again. Well, you didn't win last time. And you ask her what she wants to do this time, and you're not hearing anything. Another one of these hopes and dreams. We have hopes, we have dreams. Well, no. You got to have a plan. Can I see the plan? How are you going to make that plan work? Who's going to run that plan? Show me how you're going to get funding, who you're going to go to. And you can't get answers from them. You can't get answers. It just amazes me that the Democrats can be this blind. But they're not. They just don't have anything that they can bring you. What are they going to bring you? Roe v. Wade. Well, states had abortion laws that are on the books that supersede federal. What's the problem? No one took any rights away from you. You never had those rights except in your state. Don't like the state? Move to a friendlier state that agrees with your agendas? Or change the state that you're living in through voting. But the left doesn't want to hear that. They're frightened of that. And all the lies about redistricting. You hear this from the Democrats all the time. Yet, look what they tried to do in Virginia. You know, they tried to do something through the back door. And the courts are now saying, hold it, wait a minute. And they know it. and would they had followed the plan, which was their state constitution, on how you could change redistricting lines, and if they followed it and it passed, well, states can do that. It sucks. It's not right. I don't like when the Republicans do it. I don't like when the Democrats do it. But if they dotted their I's and crossed their T's, that's the way it goes. Don't like the state? Move to a different state or change it through voting. Now, the fact is that that Virginia is a prominent Democratic state, but what they did is they sliced the pie. Instead of having 8 slices, they went to 12 slices. And what does that mean? More representatives in the House of Representatives, in the Congresses. Not Senate. The Senate, you're only allowed 2. The House of Representatives goes by districts and population. So that's how they game the system. And both sides can do it, and as I said, they shouldn't. And now with the Voting Rights Act being a little bit more clarified, nothing's been gutted. You know, you hear, oh, it gutted it. No, it didn't gut it. It didn't gut it. That's just bullcrap. And you talk, you know, Jeffries talk about bold-faced lies. Bold-faced lie. Bold-faced lie. So, that is the Republicans for the week. And I'm going over here. I'm sorry. I'm looking away only because I had planned on printing this out, as I always do. But tonight, I was outside working most of the day today, Sunday. Nice day after a lot of rain, which we really needed. And I'm doing a lot of stuff. Hold on 1 second. All right, I'm sorry here. That's an interruption that had to be, and it wasn't from the president, who usually calls me while I'm on air. I keep telling him, I know you watch, and there's a lot of people that watch this show that you don't hear about. But the bull-faced lies. Schumer getting up and saying that it was the Republicans' fault. They could have voted for the budget. Yeah, well, they wouldn't because of all the changes in it. The Democrats could have also voted for it because guess what? It went 215 to 211. That means the majority of the Democrats voted against ending the government, partial government shutdown. It could have been passed. Schumer's upset because he wanted to change legislation. He wanted to change policies inside the Border Protection and ICE. And they wanted to monkey with how it worked. Nothing has changed in there since before Biden. Policies and procedures all follow. You know what changed? Folks, you know what changed with ICE and Border Protection? Enforcement. That's why. Well, they're arresting people in record number. Yeah, because they're enforcing the policies. They're enforcing the law. Yes, some people get swept in it that shouldn't be swept up in it. And there's procedures that protect them during the course of that. And I understand that. And if it was someone who I cared about or myself or, yeah, I'd be upset too. I go, how could this happen? It's just, But there are protections. And most of the time, it corrects itself in a couple of days. But, hey, listen, that person could be fired from their job. They don't show up. No one knows. You didn't show up for your job. You abandoned your job. I didn't abandon. I was falsely arrested. Well, that's not my fault. Go sue them. And so it puts some people in a very bad spot. That happens very, very rarely on a percentage level. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. There's citizens arrested all the time that are innocent, that have not committed the crime that they're being charged with. And there are some people arrested where their rights have been violated under the Constitution. And yet, they have to fight to show that and to prove that. And I understand it's an uphill battle, but we have a mechanism in place that allows it at least. And does it get corrupted? Yes, it does get corrupted, but not on the scale where these, all these people are saying we must defund the police and do. No, that's a bold-faced lie. Just like there are crooks out there and criminals, there's crooks and criminals in the police departments. No different. That's just the way it is. Should it? No, of course not. And should they be able to weed them out? Of course. What sane person would not say that with that, hey, but one bad apple doesn't spoil the barrel. It's just a bad apple. What ends up happening is if that barrel protected that, remember, you always heard the wall of blue, the blue wall, So, and Did it happen in the past? Absolutely, it happened in the past. It would be irresponsible. It would be lying to you to say that it has not happened and does not happen. We saw that in Tennessee with the police officers who kicked the suspect. Really, they stomped him to death on the side of the road. I don't want police like that. And yeah, they had a beef with this guy, and I could have a beef with a cop. I don't want to be beat on the side of the road. I don't want my children, my grandchildren. I don't want them beaten to death on the side of the road by the police. But I'm not saying all police do that. That's a very small percentage. Horrible when that percentage hits you personally. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. It's like being a victim of an illegal alien that should not have been here to commit the crime. And people going, well, crime happens. Yeah, I get crime happens. But that crime shouldn't have happened because that person shouldn't have been here. And then they go, oh, no, that's different. No. You can't use that because that's logic, and we can't have that now. So a lot of the bantering and crying of the Democrats is really a temper tantrum and crying over things that they created, that they're responsible for. And yeah, now the Republicans have to clean that up. And it looks bad, because now we're coming in, that we're the heavy. Republicans are the heavy. They're and there's got to be another way. We shouldn't have to do it this way. But the other way was not letting them in. But you let them in, so now we got to get them out. But we don't know who they are, so we have to stop people and ask them. Yeah. Democrats are being called out on this, and you're being called out, and you don't have an answer. You don't have an answer. And you see people online going, oh, Trump's a bad man. He's a pedophile. He's a rapist. He should be in jail. Well, he's not, because they tried and they really couldn't find anything on the guy. They found him guilty on a business thing where every business that was on that stand said we had no problem with Trump. We looked at his numbers. We looked at this. We agreed. He paid it. He paid the loan back. We made money. He made money. We weren't questioning the numbers because the numbers were the numbers. And you had Letitia James going, you show me the man, I'll show you the crime. You think that's a good way to go? You think you want that? No. So Democrats, you lied. You're getting called out on it. You're going to lose this November even more than you did before. All right, everyone. I'm calling it a night. It's been going to be 45 minutes. Love hearing myself, but my family's calling me. Please give to a charity if you can. If you're not comfortable giving to a charity, and I can understand that. You don't want to become a victim helping a victim, fake charities and the money, 98% goes into administration costs. 2% might hit the people that they're saying they're helping. Give to a food bank. That's local, and it's helping people in your community. They not only need food, they need contributions, monetary, so they can address the situation that's staring them in the face at that moment. Excuse me. Say a prayer. Prayer does work. No matter what a Democrat might tell you. You want to know why I say that? Leave me a comment. I'll tell you. All right, everyone. Be safe, be well. And I'll see you tomorrow, God willing, as I fade to black.